What's good, everybody? Man, what's next for Ilia? Just one fight ago, we were speculating about Ilia versus Arman, Ilia versus Islam. I don't think I'll ever forget how I felt after the White House event. I had to watch Ilia Topuria get slimed out, and immediately we just lost all of these amazing matchups. I had to watch my favorite all-time fighter in Alex Pereira get slimed out by a cheating Frenchman in Cyril Gahn, and Bo Nickal got a win. Like, my day could not get any worse. I drove home, 6 a.m., no one on the streets, windows of my car down, no music, just staring. 1,000-yard stare staring out on the empty streets of Spain, man. Honestly, the way I was moving on the road, if I saw a pedestrian that looked anything like Justin Gaethje, I might have been put behind bars for manslaughter. Alright? But in this video, we're going over what's next for Ilia Topuria, from the matchup that make the least sense to the ones that make the most sense. But first, let's talk about this championship picture at lightweight. Who's getting the shot next, man? It's definitely not going to be Ilia. As much as I would like to see a rematch, and I'd love to see, history corrected, we can just ignore the White House event in its entirely. Gaethje's going to do his utmost to never step in the ring with Ilia Topuria ever again. And I can't blame him. The UFC has bigger money plans for Ilia, has bigger money plans for Gaethje. They have bigger matchups for both, for both of these fighters. We'll talk about it in a second. I made a video recently about Usman and Magomedov, how he's probably going to be the next big guy to get signed to the UFC. But I doubt that Usman's going to be, signed and fight in a title shot immediately. I think that's something you can get away with in the flyweight division years ago, maybe in the heavyweight division now if Ngannou were to come back or something, but you cannot get away with this, signing a guy from the outside and giving him a title shot in today's lightweight division. It's just too strict, right? If you trust Ali Abdelaziz and he says, Big Rufus, his next fight is going to be against someone who's never fought, that would either be Arman, Usman, fucking Mauricio Rufy, Michael Chandler, Conor McGregor, if you trust his word, then maybe Usman could be the next matchup for the title, but I really, really doubt it, all right? Arman, that's a guy that could be next for the belt, but given that he just got a fight announced against Rufy, right, and Gaethje said he's not fighting until early next year, I don't know if the timelines line up all the way. There's a chance, Arman shows out, submits Mauricio Rufy, probably what I'm going to be picking, what most people are going to be picking. That could probably put him in those conversations. But, anything can happen. You're a matchup away. You can't look past Mauricio Rufy. He has power on the hands. He could knock Arman out at any point. We've seen Arman rocked in a lot of his fights in the UFC. So we have to wait. I can't say with confidence that Arman's next for the title. And Oliveira, again, fighting for the belt would be one of the greatest, plot lines we could ever ask for, right? This guy got the belt, lost it to Islam, fucking 5 years later gets his hands on the belt again. It would be absolute cinema. Getting the belt one more time and just retiring. But I think he was meant to fight Arman at UFC 331, and I think he might have pulled out for Alan Nascimento's death. But yeah, man, I don't know if he'd be next for the belt unless something happens like Arman losing to Rufy, and Rufy's injured, can't fight for the belt, but the UFC said that would be somewhat of a number one contender fight, alright? But that's what I think is going to be next for the lightweight title picture. Let's get into what matchups there are for Ilia Topuria. Given that there's no real world, situation where Ilia fights for the belt next, what should the UFC do with this man? I think the least likely next fight for Ilia Topuria is Usman or Magomedov. This makes no sense, and easily the biggest deterrent for this ever happening is Ilia. No way this guy accepts that matchup. It's low reward, highest risk possible. It would be super weird again for Usman to come in and immediately fight the number one contender because, Topuria is ranked number one behind Justin Gaethje. And I wouldn't want to see this shit anyways. I mean, do you guys want to see this fight? Honestly, if we're honest with each other, it's like Islam versus Ilia, but super mega discount AliExpress, Temu, fucking Shein version. It doesn't get more bootleg than this when we're talking about Ilia and Usman. All right. Now, for Arman versus Ilia, this matchup, I think it's a little bit more likely than the Usman one, but still pretty unlikely. Arman's going to fight very soon. He's going to fight Rufy, like we said. It was supposed to be Oliveira, but I think if Arman wins, he is going to move on and probably go challenge for the belt next. Again, we can't know what's going on. If Arman loses that fight and Topuria hasn't gotten a fight booked, hasn't gotten any sort of announcement, there's no rumors, we could see this fight next. But, I'd love to see it. I'd love to see this fight. I've been asking for this fight. This is one of those fights that I was super excited to see, assuming that Ilia Topuria beat fucking Justin Gaethje at the White House, right? This fight and the Islam Makhachev matchup, it's what we lost. That's what makes this so tragic. All right, but Ilia versus Arman, I think it's the second least likely matchup that happens, mostly because Arman's on a win streak. He's looking to be next for the belt. He hasn't really expressed that much interest in Ilia. He's talked about, yeah, he'd like to fight Ilia, but his main concern is for the belt. right? Topuria fighting Arman, that would be a really good matchup for him. He would, lay claim to the title immediately. But I think if he fights, we're going to talk about it in a second, but if he fights someone else, gets a win, he could end up fighting Arman for the belt, and that would be a huge, huge matchup. Now, on to the next matchup, Ilia Topuria versus Charles Oliveira 2, man. This would be some tragic-ass matchmaking. I do think this match would be a lot closer this time around compared to the first time. And I would be really nervous for both guys to get finished, right? I wouldn't want either of these guys to get finished. I think Oliveira's learned a lot from the Gaethje fight, from his own fight with Ilia Topuria. I think he'd be able to keep his range a lot better. He'd make a lot better work of his jab. He'd do a lot, he wouldn't be as afraid of engaging with Ilia Topuria in the long exchanges, right? He would definitely do his best to stay away from the pocket and just try his darndest not to get 1-2 hooked and chin like he did in the first fight. It would be a lot closer, but still, I don't think this is the next matchup. All right, Ilia doesn't feel. I mean, this is me assuming, right? But I feel like Ilia doesn't feel like he can gain anything from beating Oliveira again, especially so soon. He fought Oliveira for the vacant, and then he lost his belt immediately to Gaethje. Imagine he fights him again one fight later. It would be like the second Diego Lopez fight for Volkanovski. It doesn't make sense for the legacy. And Oliveira, too, the spot he's in the division, he has, honestly, one of the better arguments for the next title shot. He has a win over the current champion, Justin Gaethje, when he submitted him. How long was it? I think he submitted him. There wasn't a belt on the line because there was a weight miss or whatever. But yeah, man, I think if something happens with Arman, either he has a really boring performance against Rufy and wins, but Dana White gets mad at him, and like they've gotten mad at each other in the past, or Arman loses, or there's an injury, Arman wins his fight, he can't fight for the belt. I could see a reality where Charles Oliveira calls out Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje says, "I want to get that win back. I want to fix that blemish on my resume," and just fights Oliveira. That could honestly happen. So I feel like neither of these fighters have much to gain. It makes sense somewhat in their spot in the division, but I feel like neither of them have too much to gain. So it's not a matchup that's pretty likely. Now, Topuria versus Holloway 2. Stylistically, honestly, hear me out. This is one of the most interesting matchups in the division, right? We saw this at featherweight, but it's different. You can make the argument that Holloway, has a win over Gaethje, and Gaethje has a win over Ilia, right? And this is a different Max Holloway. This is all arguments you can make. You can make the argument that, Max Holloway is different at 155. He's stronger. He has a better chin. He's not dehydrated. And this would all be true. I don't know if I buy it. I wouldn't really pick Max anyways, unless something crazy happens. Maybe unless Ilia Topuria comes in looking chopped with his hair, looking like Ferran Torres in there. But hype-wise, this fight would be a lot bigger than Arman versus Ilia, simply because Max is always going to attract the more casual crowd. Ilia Topuria is already a huge star. It's a rematch. People love rematches. I feel like this matchup makes sense. Both fighters are in similar spots in the division where they don't really have a claim to challenge for the belt. Ilia because he has a loss over the champion, and Max Holloway because he has a loss over a contender in the division who's above him. So neither of them really have a claim. So why is this not number one? Why is this not my most, probable matchup? Well, because unfortunately, Ilia Topuria is probably going to fight Paddy fucking Pimblett next. Now, in my notes, I have nothing written because this fight pisses me off that I could talk about it forever. When you think about Ilia Topuria stepping in the octagon with Paddy Pimblett, you think we've lived in a dystopian world. You imagine that fight. You take out all the context of current UFC history, and you think, how have we gotten here, right? Like the Minecraft achievement. We've gotten here because of Dana White privilege. We've gotten here because Paddy Pimblett got pushed after sliming out Bobby Green and Michael Chandler, right? That's what you're thinking, because in no world does Ilia Topuria belong in an octagon with Paddy Pimblett, right? Other way around. Paddy Pimblett does not belong in there with Ilia Topuria. These guys are on completely different levels. And just giving this fucking guy, look at the way he's looking at me, bro. Giving this guy a chance to go in there, get beat up, and then fluke a submission, because that's what it would be. It would be a fluke, right? If BSD doesn't shoot that takedown, keeps it on the feet, he pieces up Paddy Pimblett for 3 rounds, probably finishes him the 4th, or gets a 3-round decision over Paddy Pimblett. This man has not changed his style since he's come into the UFC, and he's gonna keep fucking up because of it. He's gonna keep getting into matchups where it's gonna happen over and over again where he gets exposed. It happened against Gaethje. BSD has a mental issue. This guy has CTE at the grown age of 32 or however old BSD is. He has CTE. He shot that stupid ass takedown. If people keep putting stupid ass opponents in front of Paddy Pimblett, he's gonna keep winning, and he's gonna keep improving. Paddy Pimblett is on my rogues list of fighters that I will never pick, simply because I refuse to give this guy any credibility until he actually decides to get better as an MMA fighter. He's fighting now in the top echelon of the UFC, allegedly, right? Because his competition has nothing excellent about it. All right, but best win is Benoit Saint Denis, because Benoit Saint Denis is stupid as hell. But this guy's fighting in the top echelon of the UFC, fighting the same way he was doing in his amateur days. Up against the fence, fuck it, let me throw a flying triangle, bro, and not get it. All right, this guy's been relying on his chin ever since he's gotten here, but whatever. Let's talk about this matchup. This is next 100%. This fight was supposed to happen earlier, whatever. At the beginning, they had some beef. They had the whole hand sanitizer thing. Paddy Pimblett said Ilia Topuria is leeching off of him, and he just wants to build his name, this isn't that. And then Ilia Topuria got the belt, and now Paddy Pimblett was calling him out, and Ilia Topuria's like, this guy's a fucking clown. They made that #1 contender shot for the interim belt with Justin Gaethje. Thank God Paddy Pimblett lost that shit. All right, honestly, I prefer that Paddy Pimblett loses that fight and then go on and loses another fight, then he wins that and then loses to Ilia. Because I really want Paddy to get better, bro. I want this guy to take a look in the mirror and accept, okay, I need to change my style. This is not working. So yeah, man, he lost that #1 contender fight against Justin Gaethje. And it's been a whole thing. But now that Ilia Topuria is lost and Paddy Pimblett's on a winning show, he beat BSD, the UFC is going to make this fight, man. He's going to make this fight. They're going to make it probably in the UK, maybe a UK main event. Maybe they bring it to Spain, honestly. Might get tickets to that if they put that in Spain. But yeah, man, it's going to be the next fight. It's the biggest fight in the sport, in the lightweight division, likely. Not in the sport, but in the lightweight division. And it would just attract everyone. And the UFC is a promotion, it's a business after all. That's just what's going to happen. It's unfortunate, but that's what's going to happen. So let's talk about what's in store for Ilia's career from now on. Now, judging from his activity, from what he values, from the things he said in interviews, I don't think this guy has that many more fights left in his career. You have to think that this guy's a huge superstar, especially here in Spain. And I don't think it would surprise anyone if he either goes to boxing, right? He fights someone like Ryan Garcia, Terence Crawford, comes out of retirement to fight him, or even like a goofy-ass Jake Paul matchup, right? Or he makes one more title run, gets the belt or not, and then retires before he turns 35. Like, that shouldn't surprise anyone. 35 is even generous. I'd say retires before he turns 33. But yeah, man, if he does stay in the UFC and go on another title run, I think he could definitely, very easily, be the champ once more. Think about it, man. In a few fights, a few years, the couple like dangerous remnants that we have left of the old guard, and Justin Gaethje and Charles Oliveira, they're going to have retired. And he's going to be competing for the top spot against some low-key buns competition. Like, don't get me wrong. Salkill is good. Arman is really well-rounded. But guys like Rufi, BSD, Paddy, Gamrot, they would barely sniff the top 15 back in the old days, bruh. We had guys like Prime, Tony Ferguson on that crazy win streak, Edson Barbosa, Habib, Islam coming up, Dustin Poirier, Charles, Gaethje. We had all these guys. Back in that era, Salkill's not sniffing the top 15. Right? Gamrot's not sniffing the top 15. Dan Hooker for sure is not sniffing the top 15, bro. I know he was in the top 15 for a little bit, whatever. Yeah, like, let's be for real, all right? He's going to be fighting against guys that just aren't on his level. And if we're honest, right, I believe Ilia sticks around after beating Paddy. If that is, if that's the next fight, which probably is going to be. He's probably going to go up against Arman either for the belt or for a #1 contender shot in a year or two. And then maybe fight one more contender, whoever that is, right? Whoever that ends up being, whether that's a Salkill, whoever deserves at that point. I can't see BSD getting himself in that picture. I can't see Rufi, So I don't know who it'll be. It'll be one of these up-and-coming guys. But, maybe Diego Lopez comes up from featherweight and fights Ilia Topuria. Some shit like that. And then I think he'll retire on top. That's what I think Ilia Topuria's plan is going to look like. Of course, we never know what to expect when fighters take their first loss, when they come off. They've been undefeated for so long and they just finally lose. We don't know if they're going to come back and look the same. But this is MMA, man. Anything could happen. Ilia could lose to Paddy Pimblett, and I would kill myself, live on television. But I can't doubt his skill set. I can't doubt what I've seen. This guy has the best 3-fight win streak in Volkanovski, Max, and Oliveira in UFC history. He's super skilled, one of the best boxers we've ever seen. Some of the best power in the lighter weight classes we've ever seen. So accurate, so quick. I can't doubt it, right, unless I see the cracks. Until I see more cracks in the armor, right, we need to crack Ilia Topuria. So until I see more cracks, I'm not doubting my boy. All right. So thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think about Ilia Topuria? What's next for him? Let me know down below, man. How does the Paddy Pimblett matchup go? Does he actually end up fighting Charles? Does he end up fighting Max? Arman? Like, let me know what you guys think down below. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna go. Shit, I don't even know. Turn on the AC, bro.